So just to introduce other colleagues on the call, so we have Sophie Bullivant, who is Associate Assistant Principal here at Glenmore and Winton Academies. Sophie is the cluster lead for Future Teachers, and she works on the kind of QA side of that, but also Sophie will be the face for the curriculum and the CPD side of the Future Teachers programme. Again, as we grow that across the group, it's really important that the consistency that we are offering with regards to CPD is really thorough and is really well thought out. And so Sophie's kind of taken a lead on that and has got some really exciting things planned that she will talk to you about this afternoon. Natalie Mackay is Deputy Director of the Swindon Wiltshire Teaching School Hub. Natalie leads on all things initial teacher training and also the Future Teachers programme in the Swindon and Wiltshire area. So colleagues that are on the call from Swindon and Wiltshire, when we go off into breakout rooms a little bit later in this call, Natalie will be talking to you about the programme and how she can support you to make that work again as we grow that within the Swindon and Wiltshire area. We also have Sue Bartlett, who is our cover manager here at Glenmore and Winton Academies. Sue has been part of this programme since day one, so we thought it would be absolutely vital to have Sue on this call, just so she can kind of offer some advice and some direction as to kind of what works on a day-to-day basis. Because of the nature of this programme, it's really important that cover manager works very closely with Induction Tutor, and that isn't anything that we do in typical teacher training. And so that's where the kind of the alignment for us is so important with regards to getting that right. So we'll talk to you a little bit about that. And then we have colleagues from teaching personnel who, without them, this would not be possible, literally, because they find us all of the brilliant future teachers candidates. And so I have Ben Whittle, who is responsible for Southern recruitment, and Miles, who is responsible for the Northern recruitment. And so Ben and Miles are here today just to kind of be a face, so everybody is aware who they are and what they do behind the scenes. And we'll also get a chance to hear from them regarding, the support that teaching personnel offer and the importance of that initial 15-week contract, which some of you might not be aware about. So we thought we'd just cover that. I think that is everything from me. I hope that you get, a lot out of the session. And like I said before, please feel free to ask as many questions as possible, because it might be that you know loads about this programme because you've kind of got future teachers in your schools already, or you don't know anything about it, and that's absolutely fine. But thank you so much for giving up your time. I'm going to hand over to Natalie, who will do the intro part to this session. Thanks, Nat.
Thank you, Danny. Yeah, really nice to see you all, and thanks for your time this afternoon to go through some of these things. As Danny said, as we roll this programme out into more schools and more areas, we're really keen that it remains a really great offer for schools in terms of recruitment and a really good option for candidates looking to go into teaching. So that's kind of always the aim. And I wanted to start just with a little bit about why future teachers. And I'm aware that some people on this call might actually be a few years into the future teachers journey. I can see Nikki here from Cornerstone and things like that. So you've had future teachers for a few years, but some of you, this may well be like the first time you have had future teachers in your school, and just a little bit about the background of why we think it works really well and why it's worked really well here in our school and cluster. So first of all, it deals with the issue of cover and supply, which means that your school, like day-to-day performance of your school is better. You aren't relying on unpredictable supply teachers. You have control of that within the building with the future teacher doing the cover. You also are able to take control of like that unpredictable cost that comes with that. So having people that are with you for the whole year, meaning that you aren't, you don't have this never-ending supply budget that grows and grows as you potentially have staffing issues through the year. So that's one of the reasons. More fundamentally, this is about recruitment. So thinking about the fact that, it is a national crisis, teachers are not coming into the profession, and we need to think about ways to reach people that are different. And what we have found with the Future Teachers programme is that year after year, through the help of teaching personnel and through the nature of the programme, this programme is attracting cohorts which traditional routes into teaching don't seem to be reaching. So people looking for paid routes in, people unsure about their subject, people changing career, this seems to be a popular choice for them. And it's something that perhaps if this wasn't an option would have prevented them from looking into teaching in the first place. So it offers additional recruitment capacity for your school. And fundamentally as well, it's about future proofing. So having school agency over the staff you have and growing your staff of the future. So really taking control of what feels like a fairly dire recruitment picture for education, actually having a bit of control over that and thinking, okay, I've got this cover supervisor in the future teacher role, and actually think about, well, then there'll be a trainee and so on. And just this next page is really just to show this. Don't know why those all came out in a terrible order, but you can see the thought here that actually this is the ideal. So in the commitment your school has kind of made so far, it's really that you're taking on this person as a future teacher and then as a salaried trainee. And then I've put in green there, the ideal is that they then go on to be an ECT in your school and potentially an experienced teacher or future leader in your school. Just a snapshot of our specific context at Glenmore and Winton. When we look at the sort of 7 years or so that this programme has run, we have got people who were future teachers who are now head of science, deputy Senko. They are in leadership roles in our school, and they started with us from day one on this future teacher journey. So this isn't just about plugging cover gaps in year one. This is about, you know, building staff that will suit your school for the long run. And I think that's really powerful. I know that the day-to-day running of it won't feel so much like it's about this, but in terms of the kind of vision behind it and the reason it's there, this is why we think it really works. And what I'm going to do just before we sort of go into more detail on the programme itself, if you haven't already seen Teaching Personnel's wonderfully produced video about the programme, I'm going to show you that now just as a snapshot. It's got quite a few different leaders and voices from UL, from our school, from the trusts that we're working with in the Swindon and Wiltshire Teaching School Hub, just about what the programme is and how it works. So I'm just going to share that with you now before we get into more detail. If it will let me stop sharing this first of all, and then share this. Sorry, 1 second. I shared it without sound, which is not good, is it? Not very useful for a video. Danny and Sophie, if once this plays, there's no sound, can you just flag it and let me know so that I don't sit here with nothing?
I'm ready.
Yeah. The Future Teacher Programme is a programme that's designed to be a year of professional preparation for a fulfilling teaching career. That year involves being embraced into the busy life of a normal school, covering lessons, teaching some lessons in your own discipline, and receiving a kind of bespoke CPD package that means that you are perfectly equipped by the end of the year to take on your teacher training.
Future Teacher Programme benefits United Learning in many ways. Firstly, it decreases any in-school variation in regards to quality of teaching. And also there are financial benefits to it as well, in the fact that it does reduce staff cover costs for us at school level and also at trust level.
It allows us to tap into resources in terms of staffing that we probably wouldn't ordinarily attract.
Another really good thing for schools is around recruitment. Recruit people from the very earliest stage, working as a cover teacher, and then train them in their school with a view that they will have an ECT role, they will have a leadership role in the future.
So it's my year 10.
Recruitment is so hard, and this is a way of bringing in quality people, and the support you get from the hub is excellent, and it allows you to bring in really good graduates and make them your own.
So this programme provides people with an opportunity to have a taste of what teaching is like, but it also allows them to embed themselves fully in the school community and be part of something that's bigger.
Living the day-to-day life of any school, the more you're going to understand the values that underpin it and be able to embody them yourself. And when I look at the future teachers that work here, they are definitely some of the staff that understand that ethos the most.
It allows us to capture staff very early on in their careers and allows us to model behaviours very early on and how we want them to perform within the classroom.
So we know that the consistency and the quality of what our students are receiving is really high. That's such a great thing for schools.
It's important that you're a teacher first, subject specialist second.
Recruiting teachers in education at the moment is exceptionally challenging, and this addresses that as a means both of attracting a different calibre of graduate but also retaining people. It gives them a clear and defined career within education. This programme, as it builds the long-term culture of the school, and they're supported right from their very first day.
What we've seen with graduates following this route is that these graduates are very strong. They're ready for the classroom. They put through the ringer and they hit the ground running.
Okay, there we go. That is our dramatic mini movie on the Future Teachers programme. But hopefully that captures a little bit of what it means to the different leaders involved and the different people engaged with the programme, because actually there's a lot of different people there at different trust leadership levels that are all echoing the same thought that this programme has really helped them and their school in a significant way. So I'll hand over to Sophie now to start going through a little bit more about the specifics of the programme now that we've sort of understood, I guess, the vision behind it.
Okay, thank you. I just want to say before we start that all of the information that we talk about today will be in the handbook. The handbook will talk about sort of teams at the end, but it's available on Teams, so don't sort of feel like you need to make copious notes on sort of logistics and sort of operational things for next year, because obviously it's all summarised in the handbook for you. So with regards to the programme aims, obviously Natalie's spoken about sort of future teachers more broadly. From a curriculum perspective, we really want our future teachers to have secure foundations before they start an ITT year, a year of learning and growth, and a year of professional preparation. So it's really important that we are committed to, to developing teachers who are going to become, great reflective practitioners. They understand and uphold the values of, working within the teaching profession. And I think for our future teachers, that's a really important part of their learning journey with us. They're committed to their professional development right from the start, and that they are, embedded in a school where they are striving to make a difference to students' lives. Also, it's important that learning and growth is really suited to the context of their career. We want to provide them with a really safe community to learn and make mistakes, but also with access to a high quality curriculum that's really relevant to them in their role as a teacher that's covering lessons, and also potentially a future teacher who may at some point in the year take on a small timetable of their own if staffing sort of requires that. So it's very much bespoke to them, and it very much leads into the ITT year. So training isn't going to sort of double. They're not going to repeat everything in their ITT year. It's very much bespoke to their context now. And we also want to make sure that they are professionally prepared to begin their ITT training year, to take on that increased responsibility that comes with a salaried role in training, and to meaningfully start engaging with their subject curriculums, as well as sort of being a cover teacher of lots of lessons. We want them to start sort of really immersing themselves into their subject teams as well. So in terms of how the curriculum is sequenced, this is really important for you as a school lead, so that you can support your future teachers in accessing the curriculum and supporting them in engaging with it. Phase 1 is all around induction, and as you would imagine, there's a real heavy focus on behaviour and relationships, making sure that future teachers can set up a safe classroom environment, they know and use school systems, and they have a repertoire of key strategies that will support them in running their own classroom. But also professional behaviours, in terms of forming really strong professional relationships with students and staff, and really understanding what their role as a future teacher is and what it means to work in a school. And as I said before, this is quite a steep part of their learning curve, I think, as they join as a future teacher. Phase 2 then spans from autumn through to the spring term, and this is all around getting future teachers to explore and engage in aspects of pedagogy that is relevant to their role now. So they'll start looking at what we mean by inclusive classrooms, exploring aspects of SEND and diversity, equity and inclusion, and also starting to explore the fundamentals of lesson planning, so that they really understand that when they are covering lessons, what are some of the key principles that they'll sort of be seeing and enacting in the classroom. And then finally, phase 3 is our instill phase, and this is where we really want to start getting our future teachers to think forward into their ITT year, and making sure that we're really instilling the knowledge and the values that they need to be successful as a salaried ITT. So we are exploring the curriculum in a little bit more detail. So rather than just them thinking of themselves as a cover teacher, we're going to get them to start thinking about themselves as a teacher of their subject specialism. What is the place and purpose of their subject? How is their curriculum designed in that particular school? And also we're coming back to professional behaviours towards the end of the curriculum as well, making sure that they're well prepared to support and manage their well-being, their resilience, and ensure that they're reflecting in a really productive way to prepare them for their ITT year. So that's sort of how the programme is broadly structured, and I'll come back sort of later in today's session to show you an example of how we then structure the training within that.
This is me now, isn't it, Sophie, this one? Yes. So thinking a little bit about your responsibility then as the school lead, so the person who is really, I guess, professionally responsible for the development of these staff within your schools, we've got some advice really on some things that are good before Danny and Sue have a little look at some best practice from kind of on the ground. But in terms of from you guys from September and for kind of day to day, we want to be thinking about, first of all, think about the practical arrangements for those candidates. Sophie, sorry, do you mind if you just click the next one so the little list comes up below? I realise you've got control of it now, thank you. So allocating a mentor to each future teacher is really important. That person is going to be really a significant contact for them throughout the year. It is worth saying that the mentoring role for the future teacher is much less onerous than it is on a formal ITT route or as an ECT. It is more light touch around the systems we've put in place, which we'll go into in detail, but it broadly relies on them having a significant discussion with the future teacher once a half term where they have a professional learning conversation, and that will all reflect the training that the future teacher has had. So it can really suit someone in your school who perhaps has doesn't have the capacity to take on a trainee, but a future teacher may well be someone that they are able to mentor. And we would ideally recommend that is within the department that the future teacher would be looking to train in. I know some of them might be a little bit undecided on subject, so broad area is fine if they're unsure, but as close to their subject as possible would be great. Ensure from your perspective that the future teachers and mentors can access the Teams page that we've set up. We're going to give you a little bit of time later in the session just to make sure you can access it and therefore give them the advice, but just making sure they can access that because that is really where all of the course curriculum and information is held. One thing here that Danny and Sue will talk a little bit more about is thinking about a suitable workplace for them. So some of you may well have numerous future teachers in your school. Some of you might only have one, but trying to think about someone who is for the year a little bit of a nomad covering lessons, having a space for them to come in and work in the morning or to pop into to have lunch with people. It will depend on your school setup and what works. I can see Ben sort of laughing there because he knows that over the years here at GW, I basically have just carved them out of space in what is a glorified cupboard, but they are so thankful for having that space because actually it's their space. So however many you've got and whatever that would look like in your school, thinking about a suitable workplace for them. Next bullet point, Sophie, please. Thank you. Check in with your cover manager and future teachers. So that's something for throughout the year, but thinking particularly in September for that practice, how it works. Learning walks, so arranging them in terms of seeing how future teachers are doing, picking up on things that are going well or not well in the classroom. The earlier you can get in and see them, the better. And also support, again, early on, but also throughout the year with any arising issues. And again, Danny and Sue will go into a little bit of this and how that relationship works in terms of flagging those things, because really you are, I guess, advocating for their role to be as positive as possible. So picking up on things that you can help with is really significant as the leads. Another thing that you're going to be responsible for, which we've added new this year, so anyone who's had future teachers before, this will be new to you, but for anyone new, this is just how it's going to run, is we've implemented kind of a QA checkpoint just so that any issues are flagged early on and we can support. So between myself, Danny and Sophie. So the quality assurance is basically just tracking the completion of their self-study so that you can check that they are actually accessing the materials and completing what's needed. We're going to do a half-termly like on-off track sort of just ragging system, just so that we can see whether or not they are on track to get onto salaried teacher training the following year. What the last thing we would ever want is for any future teacher to get to near the end of the school year and the school say, actually, we don't think we can support you on salaried teacher training. That's really what we want to avoid. So just making sure any issues are flagged early. And also in your role, the quality of mentoring is something to consider. So are the people mentoring them able to get in to see them a handful of times in a half term? Are they meeting with them for the professional learning conversation? Are they speaking to you about issues that are coming up or things they think would make the future teacher's life easy, you know, that sort of thing. And then lastly, the professional development side of things is where, with all that knowledge you have from learning walks, from the mentor, from spending time with the cover manager or whoever manages cover in your school, thinking about any bespoke professional development opportunities that are needed for your future teachers. So making sure that if you've noticed on learning walks that actually a lot of them are struggling with you know, managing the behaviour of Key Stage 4 students because they find the older students a bit scarier, which tends to be, you know, a common theme. Can you provide something specific for them that supports the curriculum they are getting? There is no requirement for that to be at any regular intervals, just according to what you pick up on in school and what you think would benefit them. And also that you give feedback to them and the mentor following learning walks. So if there are, again, issues, concerns, or things to praise, let them know, because they will be, I think, keen for feedback, and we're trying to grow that keenness for feedback, because boy, do you need to be keen for feedback in your training year, because you get a lot of it. So starting to help them feel like that is a really positive part of their journey, that getting feedback, critical feedback and positive feedback, is a really good thing for them becoming better at the job. So in terms of the school lead, those are kind of the three areas we think are significant: the kind of practical things for September and day-to-day, the QA sort of hats that you have on around, are they completing what they need to for the course? Are they on track for us as a school? And then professional development, is there anything else I can supplement or complement or add to their experience from what I've picked up in my context? And I know that lots of you are in really well-placed positions to be able to do those things.
So we just,
yeah,
thanks,
sorry.
Nat. We just thought we'd touch on some examples of best practice for you, really. So things that over the past 7 or 8 years we have found works really well for us in terms of trying to support future teachers to feel part of the school school staff, but also seen as a teacher. And I think for us, that's the kind of biggest thing that we've realised. For this to work, they really do need to feel like they're part of the teaching team. And that will naturally happen when they have a tutor group, or when they're being asked to take on some Key Stage 3 classes in the subject that they're going to teach and so on, or that they're attending professional development sessions. But also just some really small things that, if we get these right day to day, it just hopefully immerses them and makes them feel much more comfortable, confident, and in control in that kind of day-to-day school life. So the first is around that daily meet and greet, and I'll ask Sue to kind of touch on some of these in a minute, but I just thought I'd take you through them. So what happens here at Glenmore and Winton is that the future teachers will come in every morning, and the first port of call will be to Sue's office to say hello, good morning, have a little look at the board. So she publishes the daily cover list and pops that on the wall outside of her office. They go through that, and it's just something that all of them are used to doing, but it also gets them into that routine of where they go when they come in, a bit like we, you know, throw our bags into our office or whatever we do. They've got something that they know they must do every morning, and someone that they know will greet them, particularly, you know, when they're new to school life. Schools can be quite hard places to navigate, and very busy places. So it just helps them to feel like they've got someone there, you know, ready to meet them at the start of the day. The other thing that I know Natalie and Sue worked really, really hard on a few years ago was trying to get them some office space. So we do appreciate how difficult that is, and that is not doable in every single school, but definitely something for you to be thinking about, because again, that kind of place of belonging is so important, particularly when you're not attached to a department. We do say they should be attached to a department, but we know the reality of the role is that they will be doing that cover predominantly in that first term. That is all they're going to be doing. And so just giving them a little bit of a place where they can go and make a cup of tea, or they can put their bag, or, you know, when they're not having to be in a lesson, they've got somewhere to go. For us, we found that vital. And like I say, Sue and Natalie worked really, really hard to get that space and to help them feel, you know, that it was their space. You know, there's a sign on the door that says Future Teachers Office, and they know that's where they can go and be together as a cohort. We're lucky enough to have, you know, 5 on average every year at this school because we're a large school. You know, if you've got one, that's not so doable. But again, if you have got one, thinking about who you can buddy them up with, where would they kind of fit best in terms of that downtime or that planning time or whatever. We also think introducing them to their department and providing them time with that department is really, really vital. So again, we know that historically they don't tend to pick up lessons in the subject that they're going to teach until a little bit later on in the term or after Christmas. But making them feel like they are part of a department is really, really important. And it helps to give them that sense of belonging. You know, they are not just a cover teacher. They are going to be an English teacher or a maths teacher or a geography teacher, and so therefore they are linked to that department. The department knows who they are. They're going to have some CPD time, some curriculum time with that department, but also they just know they can go there if they have a lesson or a day that, you know, that there's not covers not so busy. They'll go and observe in their department, and really just making them feel part of that team has worked very well for us. The other thing that Sue thought was good practice and something that's worked well for her is learning walks with the mentor or with the induction lead to see how they are progressing, and those conversations between cover manager and induction lead is vital. So Sophie and Sue will have regular conversations about how they're progressing. Are there any concerns in terms of kind of the pedagogy side or behavior management that Sophie knows she needs to pick up in her next CPD session with them? And just that kind of communication between their day-to-day role as cover, but also what Sophie needs to know in order to develop them as future teachers is really, really important, and something that we think is pretty vital in terms of their success. Remember, the aim of this is to get them onto United Teaching, and there is a whole separate application process for United Teaching. Just because they're on the Future Teachers programme does not mean that they're automatically going to be admitted onto United Teaching in terms of a formal teacher training programme. They still have to apply and go through that process. So it's just about ensuring you as induction leads are really, really aware of what that looks like. I'll talk about that a little bit later in terms of the QA as well. Half-termly checking-in meetings between cover manager, mentor and future teacher. Sue has found that particularly helpful in the past, particularly maybe where she's had maybe a tricky cohort that maybe don't gel as much, or, you know, sometimes it can take a while to get them to where we need them to be. So really the message here is about communication, getting feedback from them, making sure they're as happy as they can be, trying to sort issues out for them, you know, that they kind of pick up along the way, because they will be spending time with the majority if not all of the students in our schools. And so actually they are going to come across difficulties. They're going to have difficult interactions with colleagues. They're going to have difficult classes. They're going to have a mixture of the type of quality of the cover lesson. So as much feedback as you can get around that is going to be vital in ensuring you're able to shape this for your school, so that ultimately you are successful and that this is a route into teacher training that you think is going to be really viable for your school. And then linked to that, we do something, or Sue does something here called the PMI. So this is a positive, minus and interesting, where they're given a template. Sue does this fortnightly, and she just asks them throughout the week to collate their feelings about how their weeks are going with regards to good things, not so good things, and anything that pops up that might be interesting. And as a result of this, this has really allowed Sue to kind of tailor support and approach right people. So I'll let Sue kind of touch on this, but I know in the past when she's had some, you know, difficulties around maybe behavior, which is a standard challenge, she then will liaise with the behavior manager or the behavior lead to put in some additional CPD around that. So just quick wins, really. Sue, is there anything else that you want to touch on with regards to that one? Because I know you've had some good examples of that.
Yeah, so I found the PMI a really good thing for me, and to see how they're all going along with the with everything. And you know, quite a lot of, on the positive side, they'll say they've had a good lesson, or you know, they're working on their exit routines and things like that. And then on the minus side, they might sort of say they're struggling with year 10 boys, or, you know, could I help with some consistency with the behaviour policy? So then I will get Charlie Arnold, who is our head of behaviour, to go on a learning walk with them and to show them some examples of best practice, and they found that really good. On the interesting one, they will tell me what they're doing, like extra research or education podcasts, or developing learning on ADHD and dyslexia. So I always find their PMIs really interesting, and anything that I feel that I need to forward on, I'll send to Sophie, or to, you know, the relevant person that I think can help them out, so that they don't feel sort of lost, and, you know, that nobody is supporting them. So yeah, it's been good for me anyway.
Thanks, Sue. That's so helpful, and just another way of trying to get that feedback from them when they're busy. You know, some weeks cover will be absolutely manic, as we know, and so Sue can just keep tabs on them that way and intervene where needed. And the other thing that Sue and I spoke about earlier is supporting them to manage their time. So I know that Sue has had lots of varied examples here around management of time, but just kind of where she has maybe had to intervene, or well, you can give an example, Sue, because I know this year's cohort have been interesting, haven't they?
Yeah, they have been very interesting, and I don't know why they just can't seem to sort of manage their time, where they've said, oh, you know, I haven't had a break, or I haven't had time to have my lunch, because they've been doing something else, and they just seem to have struggled with it a little bit. They're back on track now, but yeah, that took them quite a long time to learn how to manage their day when it was really busy.
And we know the reality of that is that still happens when they are trainee teachers, because, you know, these are grads that have come straight out of university that haven't really had to manage time in the same way that you do when you're a teacher, because you don't have that many lectures over the course of a week, and you can dip in and out of kind of what you do, or you can choose how you prioritize your time. So they think they're organized, and they think that they, you know, because they've completed a degree, they're able to, you know, cope in a professional environment. But we have really realized that professional standards is something that they do need to work on. And so getting that right in that future teachers year does save us a lot of time when it comes to their united teaching year, because they know what it's like to work in a busy school. That professional standard is something that they are working towards, and there have been numerous conversations with them around that and what the expectations are and so on. So that's been an interesting one in terms of a learning curve for us. And then finally, this is probably the most important one in a way. So checking in on them in a cover lesson. So Sue will find that, you know, particularly during that first half term, she'll be flying around the school, saying hello, making sure they're okay, dropping in on them, you know, just listening outside the room to see, you know, what the kind of temperature is like in the room without them seeing her, and behaviors changing and so on, and just really making sure that they are supported and that you know, they're okay, because that kind of first 6 to 7 weeks is the most important time if we are to retain them. And then finally, ensuring they're doing the right cover. So Sue will ask them at the start of the year what subject they want to train in, where their strengths are in terms of subjects, what they don't like, what they're terrible at. And then she can just tailor that throughout the year. And that makes a massive difference to their confidence as well, particularly in the early days where they're trying to navigate a class, behaviour management, work out cover work, you know, learn the names of children. And on top of that, try to teach a lesson in a subject that they have no knowledge in. So just ensuring that where we can, we put them in, you know, the best lessons possible for them has made a big difference. So I think that's all in terms of best practice. Hopefully you've got something out of that, and I will hand over to Sophie.
Okay, thank you. We wanted to have an opportunity for you to actually sort of network with each other a little bit here, and sort of get to know sort of fellow school leads in your local area. people that you can sort of work with throughout the year. So we're going to move into breakout rooms in just a second. So just it's an opportunity to ask any questions that you might have, any best practice that you can also share, things that have worked really well within your schools, and just anything that you need from us really in how we can support you in your roles next year as well. So if we open those rooms in a second. Danny, are you opening rooms?
Yeah, just give me a sec, because some people are still unassigned. Sorry, I did try and assign people earlier, and now I've got 6 people unassigned. So I'm just assigning very quickly.
Sophie?
Yes.
It's Teresa at Sedge Hill. Just to say, don't bother assigning me a group. I'm the outgoing induction coordinator, but the incoming, there's 2 of them, couldn't be here. There are other online meetings. So I've said that they must watch this. So I just thought I'd be here so I could pass on any information, but there's probably no point me networking. Is that all right?
Yeah, you might have some best practice you want to share. You're welcome to join if you want to, or I'll leave that with you.
I've never worked with future teachers, but just been a long-standing induction coordinator.
Teresa, are you staying for the course of this session?
So for the end of this year, yes.
So what I'll do is I'll just pop you in the United Learning group with me, because people might have questions, and then you can just write down answers and then feed that back, if that's okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Perfect.
All right. No worries. Thank you.
Great. So